Well, Nebraska, of course, is coming off of the gut-wrenching 13-10 loss to Iowa. Iowa takes the Heroes Trophy again, and Nebraska, a lot of the same issues continue, self-inflicted wounds, etc. Now, we're about 20 hours or so removed from the game, so I've had time to kind of think about it in context, and really, I want to give you some of my thoughts and my ideas on the game. I would love to hear your thoughts, so drop those in the comments for me. Let me know what you think. Also, if you like what I'm doing here, please drop a like. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. And down at the bottom, you can see that I do have memberships. I have a few members there already. I'm going to be having different things in terms of the tiers for tier 1, 2, and 3. Tiers 2 and 3, you're going to be getting a lot of film reviews. And if anybody wants a watch party for the bowl game, drop it below. But a lot of good stuff coming up for the members and also, you know, everybody who rocks with the channel anyways. I appreciate all of your support no matter what. But that being said, I'm going to dive right into this and just give my thoughts, you know, kind of off the top of my head. So last night is emotional for a lot of the same reasons. Again, the same story repeats itself. And there was a feeling within myself and probably others that the more we let Iowa stay in that game, the more uncomfortable we felt about how the game was going to go. And it's not really our fault to feel that way. It's just this repeat song and story over and over again. Now, I know there's still a lot of emotion involved, and I know people are still upset about the loss, but I do want to kind of give you an analysis and just my overall thoughts on the performance as a whole. And I kind of put this out on my Twitter last night. You can follow me there at _H-Town Husker. But one of the biggest things that you know I kind of sit and think about is what was our goal over the last few weeks. You know, we brought Dana Holgorsen on, and you know, to correct this offense that had been horrible. You know, horrible on tape, had really no hope to get better, and honestly, probably would have hurt recruiting in a lot of ways, considering there wasn't much hope, and a lot of what his film showed just wasn't desirable for a player to come play in. And one of the things that when Holgorsen took over, we started to feel a lot better about it. And of course, we got that monkey off of our back of the 6th game and bowl eligibility. And so not everything is doom and gloom like in previous years where this was our last game of the season. And before anybody says it, this is not a Kool-Aid thing. Now, my job here is to analyze the game and give you my thoughts. And I'm going to give you a football perspective on this. So throughout the game, Nebraska naturally, of course, if you look at all the statistics outside of turnovers and penalties, dominated throughout. Okay. The turnovers and penalties continue to be a big issue. Discipline in those regards continue to be a big issue. But coming off of some of these games and even some of the wins, we didn't feel great about because constant execution issues and just no consistency within our offense. A lot of people want to look at the scoreboard and use that as, oh, you only scored 10 points. How is your offense improving? Well, the one thing is, once the emotion wears off, and this game was big naturally because it's a rivalry game and there's a lot of emotion, and credit to Iowa, they won the game. You know, they took advantage of the mistakes. Their special teams were better and they did what they had to do to win the game. And this takes nothing away from that, what I'm about to say. But the one thing that you do after a game like this, everybody's going to go in the film room next week and they're going to watch the film. And watching the tape of that game and just watching the game in general, Nebraska dominated in the trenches. The defense had an exceptional performance, and the offense moved the ball pretty well, all things considered. And there was a couple, you know, the Nair drop was huge. That probably lost us the game right there. That was a undefensible drop. I mean, he just flat out missed it. You know, the special team issues, the hold. So those things, of course, we can take accountability for those. Ed Foley probably needs to go. That is, I mean, long overdue in my opinion. But when Iowa and Nebraska go into the film room to watch this game, Iowa is going to look at this tape and they're going to see themselves get dominated on the tape. And again, I know they won the game. Okay. You don't have to put scoreboard in here. There's a reason we don't go in the film room and throw the score up on the screen, right? Because in the grand scheme of things, in a developmental team and a developmental program, you want your execution and you want what shows up on tape to get better, because that is exactly how we evaluate teams. Okay. Record, it depends on a lot of things. Ohio State just lost to Michigan in the game where Ohio State lost, beat themselves a lot, similar to what Nebraska did, and lost by the same score. But again, when you go into the film and you see these things and you evaluate these things, you're going to see a lot of good on tape from Nebraska. And let's think about this. Coming off of the 14-7 win versus Rutgers, not a lot of us were feeling good about that game. It was nice to get a one-score win, but the play on the field was not something we were proud of, right? Had we won that game 14-7 and had 400-plus yards, probably feeling a little bit better about it. And so credit to Iowa again for the win. But long-term and short-term, wins and losses matter. But long-term, we got the bowl eligibility. That would have given us 7 wins and maybe a little bit better of a bowl game. But if Nebraska goes out there and plays like they did against Rutgers, and they come out and win that game 14-7, I feel, in my opinion, this is me, that I would have a lot more disgust and I would be a lot more upset. I would be happy about the win, no matter what. However, when we step back and we're talking about next season and we're talking about the bowl game, that is still our offense. And that was still the offense that was struggling back then. Now, this is our offense, and it's improved each week on tape. Iowa's a pretty solid defense, and honestly, went out there and had success. Dylan Raiola looks a lot better. He's in more of a rhythm, and that is something we really needed to see because he was struggling there for a while in Satterfield's offense. Now, what Holgorsen has been able to do is he's giving him options. He's taking what the defense is giving him. He's using the middle of the field. He's dumping it underneath. And the one thing in the defense, again, the defense, a lot of question marks again, but I talk about Tony White. Every time the defense struggles a little bit, his defense responds. And that's because he goes in, he watches the tape, and he makes adjustments. And the defense was excellent, outside of one play by Caleb Johnson. And that was that run where we had a ton of missed tackles. But that play was strung out. We had defenders in front. John Bullock, had him wrapped up, but we come over and give him some help and bounce right off of Caleb Johnson. He's a hard person to bring down a lot. But for the most part, the defense did everything they could. This is not on the defense at all. We had the mistake on special teams where everybody reacted like the ball had hit the Nebraska player, but it didn't. And Vincent Shavers got down there and got on the ball. But again, Vincent Shavers is no fault there because his job is to get down there and make a play. And if he sees the ball and everybody's scrambling to get the ball, what else is he supposed to do than assume that that ball was touched, right? So we can sit here and we can address these issues. Raiola with the fumble, that is not his fault. It's called a blind side for a reason, and he got hit from his blind side. That was on the blocker in that situation. So you can't blame Raiola for that either. And his eyes are down the field, and he's trying to make a play. And like I said, it's called a blind side for a reason. Everybody's talking about, a few people talking about his awareness. Well, a blind side is a blind side because you're supposed to be protected. There's a reason why we say if you get a franchise quarterback in the NFL or anything like that, you need to get a good offensive lineman to protect his blind side. That's because situational awareness will not always help you in that situation, especially when your eyes are downfield because they have to be because you're trying to make a play. And I have no problem with Nebraska trying to win that game at the end. Absolutely none at all. But the takeaway that we should have of this game after the emotion wears off is we should feel very good about where this team is in terms of their progress over the last few weeks. I'm feeling much better about this team now than I was before Holgorsen came on. I think we can all echo that sentiment. And big picture, I think when we step out of this a little bit and we go into the offseason, Iowa, again, they have to go on the film room and watch themselves get dominated on tape. They were dominated in the trenches. They were dominated at the line of scrimmage basically the entirety of the game. But those tightening up in these big game moments in those situations, we can't sit here and just say, oh, we're cursed, and just point at that and just say that's the end of it. And if we take any other perspective, we're drinking the Kool-Aid. It's analysis, right? The coaches and the players are not going to go in there and put the scoreboard up, put the highlights on, because if that's all that mattered, then that's what they would do. Okay. Every week they evaluate the film and they study the film, and that's how they base everything off of. So Nebraska has made steady improvements, and year 2 wasn't supposed to be this year of, Big Ten championships or competing for the college football playoff. We knew what year 2 was. Year 2 was, the goal was to get to a bowl game, and we wanted more wins naturally, but there's been ups and downs this season, and for all intents and purposes, Nebraska wins a lot more games with Holgorsen at the helm, right? So the late switch and just how we've seen this come across, and Tony White's defense, again, responding in every situation. There's a mindset on this team now that I feel is shifting, and there's going to be lingering effects of this naturally. It's not going to be, when Matt Rule came on, we didn't expect all of this stuff to go away in year 1 and 2, right? We're talking about a 3-year window, but all of a sudden we have shortened that window because you see teams like Indiana, and you see other teams who can turn it around quickly, but those teams recruited and they attempted to turn those things around quickly. Nebraska was not trying to make an overnight change. When Matt Rule got here, he said, "This is what you hired me for." After Nebraska had some heartbreaking games and a couple losses, he said, "This is what you hired me for. You didn't hire me to win in year 1. You didn't hire me to go to the college football playoff in year 2. Year 3 is where my team shine." And a lot of evaluation will come on his coaching in year 3. That's where I'm going to start really kind of dissecting some of the stuff. But, his clock management over the last couple seasons has been bad. But last night, his clock management was a lot better. That drive before half, we saw how that went, right? Perfectly executed that, got the ball back in the second half, and wasn't able to go down and double dip in the score. However, clock management improved. The offense has improved. This is a few pieces away from that game being a blowout. And I'm talking about those players that contributed to the loss. Big one is Isaiah Nair, and just the other boneheaded mistakes. So if we were coming out of this game and we won and had the film of Iowa, me personally, big picture, would not be feeling good. I'd be feeling great about the win. Don't get me wrong. But big picture, at the back of my mind, it would not be similar to the Rutgers game. So I think that's something we can kind of take from this and put it into perspective. And then, Cortez Mills committed today. That just goes to show that what is happening behind the scenes and what these type of players are seeing on the film, and this is an offense now that they want to come play with. This is an offense that they want to be a part of. And this is an offense you can recruit people to say, you can change this, right? You can be the guy that steps up and makes that catch in that situation. And I know Dylan Raiola missed a couple throws, right? But for the most part, he was excellent and efficient. The ball was jumping out of his hands a couple times there early on in the game, adrenaline, all that stuff. And the wind carried that deep ball from what I heard from people there. But for the most part, that loss is not on Dylan at all. It is on a couple of plays here and there and a boneheaded mistake there at the end of the game where our blocking just let up for one of the first times in the game, and it came at the most inopportune time. So we can point at about 4 or 5 plays that lost Nebraska that game. But that's much better than sitting here and looking at an hour and a half of film and seeing yourself get beat down all over the film and then losing the game. And that's what we've seen in years past, where Nebraska has just not played well and lost these games. And again, not bowl eligible in most of these, and that makes it hurt a lot more. I think we can find solace in the fact that we are seeing development and we are seeing progress. And that is exactly what we need to see. That is exactly what we wanted to see. And that is exactly what will continue to make this team better in the future. Okay. All hope is not lost. This is no reason to get down on this team and think this is the same team. It's not a reason to say we're cursed and this is always going to be the case. Absolutely not. That is a lazy argument. Pointing at the score and just saying scoreboard, that is a lazy argument. It takes all of the analysis out of the game. It takes the big picture out of the game. And we got to look at all the parts, just like we have all season. We didn't come off of the Colorado game and feel great about it because we didn't play 4 quarters. What did we do in this game? We executed for 4 quarters. Those few plays were the difference. So if I could point to 4 or 5 plays that are difference, I'll show you a team that can get better in a short amount of time. But if you show me a team that has execution issues all over the place, I am going to show you a team that has a long way to go. Nebraska is right there. This will go away, and these coaches will continue to make this team better, and these players that they are bringing in will continue to make this team better, and those new players and these new players on the team now are going to be the ones that change the tide. So at the end of the day, Nebraska fans, it hurts, but all hope is not lost. And this is much better than it's been in the past. I know it's hard to hear, but it's what we need to hear. And it's what we need to listen and think about, because that is truly what matters, especially in a game where it's not for the Big Ten championship. It's not for the playoff. It'll give you a better bowl game. You'll feel good about beating Iowa. But this team is executing at one of the highest levels it has all season. And I think that is a reason for optimism and reason to not really give up on this team. So I hope that helps. If you made it this far in the video, please drop a like, leave your comments. Let me know what you think about this overall. Do you think my thoughts are ridiculous? Do you want them to, blow it all up? How are you feeling overall? I'm really curious to know y'all's thoughts. And again, if you don't mind dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you want to see more. But this has just been kind of me releasing my thoughts, letting you know how I feel. Let me know how you feel, and we will live to fight another day. I will see you next week on the next video, and I will be breaking down the game. So y'all take care. Have a good one. Peace.